Welcome to the Old Souls and Seekers podcast, brought to you by Satori Prime. If you're anything like us, you've been around and around the personal development and mindset block quite a few times. You've read the books, watched the videos, attended the seminars, and even worked with a coach or two, and yet you still find yourself searching for more. You may even feel stuck or that you should be farther along than where you are right now. And after doing over a decade of mindset work, we've come to this realization. Mindset work is like a small hit of dopamine that distracts you from your true work. You get these little hits of feeling better, only to be met with the same underlying conditions and patterns over and over again. Now, mindset was an important part of your evolution as well as ours, but it hits a plateau, and now you find yourself ready for that deeper layer of growth and expansion. If you're listening to this podcast, then you're ready to get off that Ferris wheel. This podcast is only for those that are ready to dive deep and do the real inner healing work. For those that are ready to move past more information into actual experiences. If you're looking for more understanding, then you've come to the wrong place. This is a home for old souls ready to fully embrace and remember who they truly are. Ready to make a profound difference in their lives and in the lives of others. So welcome home, dear one. We're excited to be part of your journey.
All right, y'all.
Hello. Wow, it's so interesting. It's so dark.
I was going to say you look a little dark.
I don't know why. And it also it looks like washed out.
Is your studio light on?
Strange.
Anyway, welcome in. Hey, Elena. Feel free to say hi in the chat box as well. What's up, Shamir? It's nice to have you all here with us. Elena says she is super excited and relaxed at the same time. I don't know if she says if that is even possible. I don't know. That actually sounds like a bit of a sweet spot to me. Urska, how you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you? How's everyone in the fam?
Healing-ish. Yeah. Lots of different things. I know it's the same for you. It kind of passes through. I found out, I listened to the guy about some health things, and he was saying 50 degrees, cold plunges, 3 to 6 minutes a day, great for burning fat, also like a sweet spot for immunity. I noticed since I've done cold plunge, I feel like bulletproof as far as just not responding harshly to really anything. I've had very mild cases of what I've seen people have very strong cases of.
Yeah. I between sauna and cold plunge, I think you're handling a good portion of the recovery and also health benefits. So yeah, it's been for me too. By the way, I was actually thinking about you this morning because I know yours is more of a sit-in, right? It's not you're not like that. Someone told me that two things that I learned. One, very important to get your neck down this part into the water.
Yeah. To get it in.
There's the occipital.
No, occiput.
Yeah. Something like that. That registers that cold. So it actually sends your body into that response.
Oh, I see.
And then the other thing because it was interesting, this guy was a firefighter. Mm-hmm. And the reason he got the cold plunge was not for recovery or fat loss or any of that. He wanted to create a nervous system response so that when he's in these high adrenaline situations, he can actually regain control over the nervous system. And I was like, wow, that's very interesting. And so a lot of people dip, they'll go into the cold plunge. Mm-hmm. On an inhale. Okay. So you take a breath in and then you fully dunk and then you come out because they're doing it to try to get their body cold. He was like, have you ever tried it on an exhale? And I was like, huh? Basically you take all the air out of your body.
Okay.
And then dunk.
Okay.
And what happens is your body goes into like a death response, like it's drowning basically. And so for us, what's super cool is, you know, I'll try to do it for like around 10 seconds. You come up, you're gasping, right? It's like the body's natural response. But what's more interesting for us with the awareness practice is you can literally feel your nervous system do that spidey sense, you know, that like, you know, when it freaks out and it just like shoots everything. And so everything gets like really like, whoop. And then I practice on like how quickly I can find ground and like get back to that baseline. And it's amazing. Like from where I started to what it is today, like the body doesn't even have that visceral response anymore.
Truth be told, since I got our own cold plunge, I haven't had like I never get that experience. It's just a little like, I'm sure you get used to everything, but it's like I could feel how when you're over here. I know even when I take cold showers, if it hits the top of the head, there's certain spots that like the body just can't help itself. But in a cold plunge. Anyway,
and also moving, right? Like if you're like stationary, your body can create that little bit of heat, but when it's like moving water around, it's different.
Totally different. Yeah. Even just having the hands inside versus hands up. Huge difference in terms of capacity to be with it.
Massive.
Yeah. Anyway, so cold plunges.
Look, I mean, to me, it's like all the same thing, right? You know, when I sit in that cold plunge, like I'm actually like full body awareness. And my practice is I literally like go deep into the earth and find that grounded state. And it's like how quickly I can find that semi-final grounded breath, etc. And again, even in the whatever, I think I got mine in like May, so whatever, half a year ish and change, like how different I can be in there today than when I first started. It's like it's insane.
Yeah. And Shamir is saying every time I do cold shower, my body does not want to do it. Your body never wants to go into the cold. Doesn't matter how long you do it. Cold showers, if it's really cold water, for me is tougher than a cold plunge, because as long as you get submerged, especially if you're not moving too much. But a cold shower, when there's running cold water, is a very different experience than when the water is static. So it's not quite the same.
You just can't get
you can't get cold enough.
Yeah, the cold shower is like they don't. I mean,
you're not submerged. There's no way it's the same.
Yeah, and it's not. The water can't get that cold.
And in the same token, like I used to do the where they put you into the nitrous oxide, or is the nitrous oxide?
No, the cryo.
The cryo, like the NO2, whatever. And to me too, that's a complete joke in comparison to being submerged. Like you could really feel the benefits of submersion. I don't doubt that cryo reduces inflammation, but I think that's more or less where it ends. I think for, you know, the science on cold plunges and detoxing for really hot saunas, which is also tough to get. It's tough to get a sauna that really gets hot enough to really make a difference in the way that most people think it benefits them. But I mean, I think those things are indisputable in terms of longevity and health. Yeah, I mean, ideally you're doing submersion of everything with this kind of stuff. But
have I told you about my new workouts?
I just want to make sure that it's helping people that are listening, so we're not just having a chat between me and you.
Well, it's always helpful.
Yeah, go for it.
Did I tell you about this or no? They opened a gym. It's a franchise, so I don't know where it is around the world or just in the US. But you know, like electro muscle stim, you know how we use it for recovery, like those pads that people put? Okay, so imagine like a wetsuit looking thing,
okay,
like up to here and up to like right above your knee.
Okay.
You put this suit on and it has pads everywhere.
Like chili pads?
No, like sensor pads, like the electro muscle stim pads.
Okay.
But across your whole body.
Okay.
And as you're doing a workout, the machine is stimulating all of your muscles.
So are you hooked up to something? Like you're hooked,
so you have a battery pack on the side. They have an iPad that controls everything. So there's like the baseline that they take everybody to. And then you can fully customize. You can say like higher on my arms, higher on my glutes, higher on my abs, whatever. It goes from zero. I found out it goes from 0 to 99. So baseline is 25.
Okay.
And like people are screaming, like imagine like your whole body just goes, and you're like trying to move, right? So I finally figured out the numbers thing. So the other day, I had the highest I'd been at 30, and I was like, the guy's like 30. I was like, go to 35. And as soon as it hits, your whole body crumples because I don't know if you guys have ever had like a muscle sting where your arms just like, but imagine your whole body and you're trying to do like simple moves. You're not like doing like crazy moves, but like imagine trying to do like a sit up as your abs are just going, dude.
Crazy.
I have never felt this sore for this many days in a row. Like It is astounding. The workouts are 25 minutes long. I can't straighten my arm.
So America's got, just so we're clear, so America's gotten so fat and lazy that the only way we're going to get out of this situation is by putting these suits on people and
I got to tell you,
electrocuting them into workouts.
I got to tell you, this is not a workout for not fit people. Like this poor family. I don't know if they were like walking by. They were like, yeah, this looks like fun. Let's try it. First of all, it's like a very tight suit. So it's like for most people just uncomfortable just to like stand in it. But this family comes there. I think one of the people was the grandma, and we were doing like, they have like a yoga stretch one. So it's like very, very light, but it's like yoga movements, the woman couldn't even like, she couldn't do anything. And I was like, thank God she wasn't here 25 minutes earlier.
So you go to a center, and did they give you a workout to do, or you can just lay there and take it?
No. It's like a computer screen that has like movements. There's a person in front. They're not like the instructor. They're more like, they're there to actually control the suits.
Okay.
But dude, in 25 minutes, like the level of sweat that comes off of my body and like the intensity. Yeah. The first time I did it, we did it Saturday, Sunday. I was sore. Like my biceps were sore through Thursday. And I didn't do a single bicep curl.
So when you get ripped this year and you start posting pictures of yourself, I'm going to be the first asshole that comments and says he cheated because he's wearing a wetsuit. Yeah, electrocuting him into this shape. Just so we're clear.
I got to tell you, like, when you and I track, like, do you have one of those scales that tracks like?
I do. I don't really put a lot of. I don't know how much I trust those numbers, but I do have one that tracks like bone density and
yeah. So all that stuff. So it's been very interesting to like just track muscle mass,
right?
Like I've only done it twice a week now, just on the weekends. Like this is my third week, but I can tell you, like the body already looks different, and my muscle mass has gone up.
I'm curious about the DEXA scan. Like I would do that, and I sent you. And for anybody else, I'm happy to share this as well. I guess we're getting on a health kick. I mean, and truth be told, is occasionally we have conversations with other people about our health practices, and Ilan and I are always testing out different protocols. And it's really something we actually don't share that much with the Satori Prime community.
Yeah,
well enough, like the amount of different protocols and things that we've tried over the years. And occasionally I try to do this stuff on my personal profile on Facebook, but then I see for the amount of people I wish had the knowledge and information that we've gotten access to. And it's not always because just us, like we're just around a lot of really smart people.
Yeah.
Who know way more about the body than we do. And so they give us protocols and like, okay, I'm willing to try, but there is a protocol that Huberman put out about naturally increasing testosterone. And I watched a clip about a guy who ran the protocol. It's just these two supplements that naturally increase it, because I'm not willing to do testosterone therapy. I think the downsides of it are too big. But to naturally increase it, sure. And the guy did a 30-day run with it and increased his bone density by 37%.
Wow.
Just taking supplements. I'm like, that's pretty profound anecdotal evidence. And again, I'm not saying that would happen for everybody. Wow. He might be at a certain age and a certain biology, but nonetheless, if you can even increase 10 or 20% I mean, and that's a big indicator for longevity. So
Longevity, yep.
It's pretty impressive. So I can get those supplements if anybody is curious about that. Anything else you want to share?
I just kind of like on this theme, what's really interesting is I think for everything, to me and to Guy as well, like my practices today have, again, I'm 42 now. Like I play tennis 5 days a week, and tennis is one of those sports that like, it's going to give you like nagging little injuries, like people's elbows, people's knees, people's back, whatever. Right. And so when I turned 40 or right before I turned 40, like I made a hard right turn and I was like, I'm not so much interested in like building strength or that. Like it was like flexibility, long lean muscles, and then recovery. Recovery became like really, really big for me. And what I've realized as I've been going through this, and it's very similar and tied into like all the awareness practice that we do, is in order for you to ongoingly create change and shifts in your life, you have to be doing things that are new and challenging, both to your mind and your body. And the reason that Guy and I take our physical body so seriously and like we invest so much time, energy, money, and effort in it is because what we realized is as we started doing these awareness practices, it's like if your body, the physical vessel, isn't strong enough to hold these levels of energies that are coming through, your body will literally like shut down. And so it's not just about like strong here, it's strong everywhere. And what's been amazing is like every time I explore even new movements, I'm not even talking like new exercises or things like that, just like a new movement that your body's not used to doing. Like I started like, after we had that conversation, I started like crawling on the floor and like moving my arms in weird ways and like going really slow and like doing all these things. And what you start to find out is like you start to find out the
edges.
Yeah, like where there's like limitation in the movement or where it's uncomfortable or whatnot. And it's like, oh, I'm just not strong there. Like that's the weak point in the body. And I think now with like the awareness practices and being able to scan our entire system as we are doing these movements, it's like I just have so much more awareness around certain things.
Yeah.
Whereas before I used to shy away, I was like, oh, that doesn't feel good, blah, blah, blah. Now I'm like, like this is where you're wanting to explore. Right. Because look, I say this all the time, like awareness practices, right? And people think that I'm going to do this work and all of a sudden everything in my life is going to work out. Like there's only one way to create stronger anything. And that is you stress the system first, whether that is you stress your muscles, whether you stress your nervous system, like I'm just looking around my room, plants, right? Like you don't water plants for a while and that creates stress so they can like take in more water, all these things. So for me, when we do the awareness practices, and life is going to happen, life is always going to challenge you. Like one of our coaches reached out to me and she's going through something like really, really major right now. But these are the moments that make you stronger if you're playing the game with that intention. Otherwise, it's going to level you and you're going to go all into your default of like, oh, why is this happening to me? And woe is me and holy shit. Whereas like now as things arise, like my son just had pneumonia. Okay. So like his lungs are weak. That's basically what's happening. And so even this, like it's his body's natural way to stress the body, find those places so that it can, in essence, strengthen itself. Right. And now we're playing that game. So I know it's really difficult sometimes because we go through some really, really hairy things. if you could just shift and realize that like everything is happening for you in order to create more strength, more stability, more resilience. Like if you weren't doing those things, you won't have access to more strength or life or longevity as you're continuing down the path. So to me, it's just like such an inevitable part of life now that I seek it in a way. I'm like excited when it's happening. So even now with these like workouts and things like that, it excites me that my body is this sore. And it's like, wow, this is new, different, you know?
Yeah. I mean, at least from where I look today, you know, whether people are getting sick or whatever, it's really just pointing at a disbalance in the system.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with the system. There's nothing wrong with viruses and bacteria. It's like if something is taking advantage of your system, then there's something that can be taken advantage of. And what it's pointing to is that disbalance in the system. And like, you know, because we've become so accustomed to thinking through the lens of Western medicine, we don't think about, oh, what might be off in the system. Like maybe I'm just missing. It could be a really as simple as like an amino acid or a simple supplement that just puts it back. A lot of people don't know this, but you can take, like you might need vitamins that are methylated instead of regular. So like folic acid is a really important one, for example, but your body may not be able to methylate folic acid. And so you may be taking a supplement that's doing you more harm than good, or your zinc and copper levels might be a little bit out of mix and they need to be at like a 1-to-1 ratio. And that could really throw your body into some strange situations. And so like, these are the type of things, right? And again, like, for example, like I've been taking liver supplements because liver pretty much has everything under the sun, but come to find out that it also has an extraordinary amount of vitamin A, for example, like 3 times the allotted dose a human being needs. And if you keep taking it on a regular basis, you're going to get vitamin A toxicity, and that's extremely dangerous. So it's like, you know, these are all the little things that you need to just like know. And funny enough, many of our ancestors, I'm sure, kind of intuitively knew this stuff because they grew up around it. Like, you know, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, no one supplemented because they were all herbalists to an extent. You know, most people were herbalists or had at least, I'm sure, fundamental knowledge of which plants to eat and for what reason. So, you know, that's a lot of the stuff that we need to take into consideration. You know, Tammy was just talking about autoimmunity, but like science doesn't have a good working definition for what autoimmunity even is. It's just what they label things that they don't understand when the system is going haywire. But, you know, again, like you got to take these days, I believe you got to take your health into your own hands. And there's a lot of
autoimmunity, at least from the way I understand it. And I went to a doctor and they found out that my thymus, which is the part that creates T cells in your body.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So my thymus was inflamed, and that can happen through a bunch of weird things that like none of us can control. But in any event, once your thymus is inflamed, it actually thinks that the body's under attack. So it goes and creates way more T cells, and way more T cells in the body. That's the autoimmune part. It like actually triggers the autoimmune response of the body because now there's over. So like, again, back to everything that we're talking about, like everything when it's in balance works great. When things are out of balance, we don't work great. And then universe, nature, whatever you want to call it, is always about bringing things back into balance. You can do that willingly. We talk about this a lot at the live event. Like you can go through that process willingly, or life will find a way to kick your ass into that, homeostasis. And for certain people, like you guys know them, the workaholics out there, people who are just like constant, right? Like won't stop, won't stop, won't stop. What does the universe usually send those people? Something that is so debilitating that they have to stop and they can't not stop. Whether it's like a crazy car accident or illness or something happens where like they just have no choice but to stop. So to me, I'm like, these aren't, and when it happens to those people, because I get a chance to speak to a lot of people, like when it happens to those people, None of them are like, oh, I had no idea that I needed to slow down. Like, you keep hearing the messages and it's like, slow down, take care of yourself. And it sends you these little things along the way and you dismiss it. You're like, no, I have to. Until it's like, bam, you got no fucking choice now. Yeah. Boom, leveled, right? So wherever you are in your life, like, what's the thing that is constantly popping up for you? What's the slow down or take care of yourself or self-love or listen more or connect more or take more chance or whatever it is? Like, what's the thing that's looping that maybe you're not honoring because you have a fear that if you do honor that, like, this other thing is going to happen or not happen, something like that. To me, it's going to happen one way or the other. You're either going to be like an active participant and raise your hand and go, you know what, let's play this game, or life is going to find a way to make you play that game.
Yeah. And I think what we're pointing to that we can look at from a more holistic point of view is like, how do you attune to your body? How do you attune to your mental state? How do you attune to your emotional and energetic state? And that's the reality is like, yeah, we're focused here on awareness. We're focused here on your mental state and stuff like that, your emotions, certainly. But every one of those things is kind of its own specialty that requires its own special attention, right? Like if we just work on one system without working on something else, that's like doing ab crunches, like 10,000 a day, but not fixing your diet. Like you're not going to see your abs. Doesn't matter how strong they get, right? Yeah. It's just not going to work. So taking a holistic approach, like what we teach here, is just part of it, right? But certainly if you're doing all this work that we're doing here and you're clearing, you're healing, but you're eating like fried foods every single day, you're going to feel terrible. Your emotional state's going to be terrible. Your skin's going to look awful. Like, it's not going to help you at all. Like, we get to start honoring ourselves at every level, right? And so for us, it's like, we're very clear about our goals. Like, I want to be here for as long as I can to influence what's happening on the planet, to have great relationships, to be with my children and my family for as long as humanly possible. I know Ilan's playing the game of being well north of 100. And like, we're entering a stage in human technology and evolution right now that I don't think any of us are adequately prepared for. Mm-mm. And, certainly things can get dreary on this planet, and in some respects they probably will, but in many respects we're about to enter a more utopian society, in my personal opinion. Utopian from the point of view of like physical labor will not be a necessity. And so like our work, which I'm very grateful for, has been the work of my life, is like the philosophical and the spiritual work, is how do we evolve our thinking? How do we evolve our society from an interconnected point of view versus a just pure survival point of view? Does that mean every stretch and every band of everywhere in the world is going to get better? I don't know. Like it's very possible that we are entering a much more utopian, not perfect, nothing will ever be perfect, but a much more utopian spiritual place in human culture. And a lot of that has to happen on the back of people not being in a state of constant survival around their physical sense. But like, it's very realistic that in our lifetimes, where we're going to go with medicine and where we're going to go with technology, that we will easily be able to extend human life 3 or 4-fold from what we've been able to have in the past. And I think for a lot of us, it's like what you do right now in these next 10, 20 years as that technology emerges and maybe becomes democratized, that if you really do take care of your heart, your body, and your mind, it's very likely that you will at least double your lifespan. I don't think that that's too much of a stretch, or at the very least be able to upload your consciousness in some way and then be some sort of hybrid. Because look, at the end of the day, the body's the body. We all know this is not what makes us, right? This is a organic meat suit that gets to move around this world. But should this be synthesized and become a silicon-based life form, but that still has the soul of a human being, I could actually see that emergence happening rather smoothly in society. Whether that's going to be accepted by this generation, probably not. But by generations that come up, like, many of us are part of the last generation that remembers what life was like before the internet. Yeah. Now we can debate whether life was better or worse before it. I'm sure there was worse things and better things in both directions. Having said that, most of the kids cannot imagine a world without that. So what are we, a generation away from introducing a technology where one generation may resist uploading their thoughts, to a computer or a silicon-based life form, where the next generation would have no issues with it at all and wonder why that was ever even a problem. So, you got to think of the world and changes in like kind of 20-year increments, especially considering the vast amount of information right now. Like, we went in the last 500 years from being a society where we kind of lived tribally, or in a certain part of the world, you didn't travel around, your family was from there. Most of us didn't have last names. And if you were given a last name, like our last name, it was built on the position that you had in society. For those that you don't know, Ferd in German means horse. So Ilan and I are horsemen, and, our family must have had some lineage because, our background is Jews, and Jews did a lot of jobs basically because we couldn't take positions of power in society. And so we were probably like the horse and buggy people, or the people who raised the horses. And so, horsemen, that's what we got.
I just think that we picked up shit for a while.
We're probably like the horse shit men. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
it was too long of a last name though.
Yeah. So, anyway, all this to say that we went from ideas taking hundreds of years to permeate society. And then all the resistance that came with that, okay, this little tribe believes that now. They try to spread that idea over here. And of course, that takes another 100 years or a war or something like that to move that idea around. Today, it's like, this is why the world seems to be in such chaos. We're moving ideas around so fast. It's like the foundation is constantly shifting underneath our feet. Having said that, though, to me, that mimics the natural world. I was just watching this this whole thing about how as the world warms up, the Arctic Ocean is going to open up, and it's going to open up a new channel that's going to decrease the amount of time that shipments, large ships can move. So
really,
so there's going to be like the way that the Suez Canal is. There's going to be a new natural canal that essentially kind of runs through Russia, but it's going to decrease the amount of travel time by 28 days.
Wow.
In the ocean. And so this opens up trillions and trillions of dollars of trade and, economic benefit and stuff like that. And whatever you think about what's happening, ecologically, or whether that's a good or a bad thing, I'm just pointing at the facts. So all these countries are taking a huge interest in the Arctic right now because there's also an insane amount of natural resources there. I mean, there's a landmass of natural resources that's 3 times the size of the United States in the Arctic.
Wow.
That's been known since the 40s, right? But how to get to it, but suddenly nature, or these cycles of warming and cooling, again, depending on what you believe about it, I'll leave that to you to decide, but facts are facts. It's happening, and it's going to open up all this place for resources and trade. So they're out there, and they were saying on a daily basis, so they build, these small little cities that people can live in to study life there and what's going on. But they wake up every single day and the land has moved 8 to 9 miles from where they were the night before.
What?
On a daily basis, because it's just a floating landmass.
Wow.
Yeah. So they have to literally figure out where they are geographically every single day and where it's moving to and all that kind of stuff. But so I'm saying all that because that's the force of nature. That's what's moving. And so if we're in essence mimicking that socially or energetically, or, through consciousness, I don't know why the words become so difficult lately. At the end of the day, what we want to tether to, and this is what Ilan and I train on all the time, and what we teach you guys is train to realize that the tether is always awareness. Awareness is unchangeable. It is the foundation, right? And so to be able to locate that awareness, it doesn't really matter the other shifts and moves that are happening, even if you have thoughts, I'm scared, or I don't like that, or whatever it might be. And that's totally natural in the human response to have that. Coming back to awareness and just saying like, oh, okay, let me view from here. And again, I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but somebody was saying autoimmune is the body attacking itself. I understand that that's like the common idea right now, but like, what are we going to think about autoimmunity in 100 years from now? You think we're still going to say, oh, the body was attacking itself? We'll probably have some other understanding of it. That's the basal understanding that most people have. And I'm sure the ones that are at like the bleeding edge of autoimmunity probably don't think that's really what's happening. Well, they probably think there's some, some enzyme that's off in the gut or whatever it might be, right? It's these things that we don't understand. And so like we walk around in our society right now, like we have this like unfathomable understanding of the human body. Like we don't fucking understand what's happening in there. Like there's a reason going to a doctor it's called practice. They're practicing, right? They don't really know. And so like we're always doing our best guess. And it really kind of comes down to that in every area of our lives. But I think what we've all seen over the last few years is that hopefully you see this too, is that the powers that be are at least their North Star is not always probably like never aligned with culture or society in any specific way. And so, for as long as the history that we've been told, it seems that humans have always given power away to authority. But we're kind of coming out of that sleeping state. And we're realizing, the people over there who've never seen me and will never meet me don't really have my best interest at heart in any particular way. They're just trying to hold this fucking chaos together. And however they think that they need to do that is how they do that. But for you as individuals who care about, connection, who care about your family and your friends, who care about your mental and emotional state, and I really care about those things for me, and certainly we care enough to share those with as many people as we possibly can. It's like, you got to take stuff into your own hands today.
Yeah.
You cannot trust the men and women in white lab coats to tell you that here's how it all works, because I don't know, time and time again, that hasn't really panned out. My life has gotten exponentially healthier since becoming interested in the body, since becoming interested in the mind, since becoming interested in these things. And as long as you're curious enough to know, and you're willing to at least test different things on you, no two bodies are exactly the same or require the same things. And it's the same when it comes to your spiritual health or your mental health or your emotional health. What works for one person feels tumultuous and scary for another person. They won't do it, and they can't do it, or they refuse to do it. So, or it elicits a negative response, so at best, we're all split testing different things to see what works best for us. I don't want you to think that Ilan and I have the absolute authority on emotions or mindset or anything like that. We're in a constant unfolding in our own awareness and our own understanding, and we're still human with all the faults that come along with that, and all the problems and all the challenges that come along with that. And I just want to say this like fundamental last thing, and then I'll kick it back to Ilan. So we're having a more generalized conversation, but I went into today thinking, Ilan and I talk some pretty high level stuff, because where we are in our practice, by most accounts, is pretty high level stuff. And there are a handful of people on the planet that I know today, and even fewer that have organizations that are teaching what Ilan and I are teaching. Okay. So we're not unique in what we're doing. There are certainly other people out there. This was handed down to us. We certainly didn't come up with these things. Having said that, I've never come across a single organization at scale that is teaching what Ilan and I are teaching. Take that for what you will. You might differ, and maybe some organization that I certainly don't. But what I want to say is, at its most fundamental, most of us have our mind. And from what I could tell, people feel like their mind is like a runaway train. It's like it's just doing what it's doing. But at its most basic, guys, like, you do kind of have a say in any given situation. If we were to inquire about it, there's certainly maybe very difficult things going on there. But as the cliche goes, there's always a silver lining. Always. You could always say, you know what? Yeah, that does suck. And there is this one aspect of it that's working. Even if 99% of it is not working, that 1% that's working, it is on you to understand that we can prove today, mental plasticity. And it can go both ways on you. You can either create new grooves in the brain by creating new habits and focusing on those things, or the brain will kind of pull you back into its old conditioning over and over again. And so some of you guys have like really difficult mental states, and you know, I don't want to say I'm sorry, because that's your deal, and I certainly didn't create that. But I'm sorry in the way that I'm not in your head. I don't live in your body. And I know some people live with extremely difficult circumstances and extremely difficult inner circumstances. I've certainly been and really trapped, like intense trappings in my own body. Having said that, every single time I meet those dark places, I'm putting that in quotes because it's not like it's bad or good, just let's call it dark places. It's also on me to make sure that when that thought is arising, that it's also met with another thought, a thought that I'm choosing. Okay. So like I can drive down the street and be really upset about something, life, business, relationships, whatever, but I could also look outside in the same moment and like appreciate the beauty of nature. You know, I can have both experiences. I can be like torn up to shit on the inside, really upset, but I can look outside and be like, whoa, look at that beautiful mountain or that gorgeous tree, and refocus just part of my energy. And it's so basic, but it's worth talking about because the foundations really matter. What you do with your mind matters. And maybe at first that feels like bullshit, but like just keep focusing on that beauty, keep focusing on that beautiful thing, and recognize, I mean, even go listen to Jordan Peterson or any clinical psychologist. Change is incremental. Change is incremental. What we do here is still incremental. It's a bit different than how everyone else is approaching it, but it's still incremental change. And so like the reps that you do on a daily basis, that's the compounding interest that you get. You know, people like Veronique, Andrea, other people who've been with us, you know, trust me, it wasn't like they didn't just get in the water and start swimming. Like they were kicking and screaming and they were upset at us and like this and that and the other. But like what Ilan and I have seen is like, just stick with it. Just stick with it. And like, you're going to see this thing is going to start happening to you. This awareness is going to arise and you're suddenly going to be in this authentic state where you can be this pure witness, this pure awareness that just watches the experience of the human unfolding. And you're going to start recognizing a level of peace and clarity and connection and healing in ways that most people have never discovered. And it will unlock all these other aspects of you, including the ones that want to treat the body well, that want to take care of this vessel, and that want to nurture your relationships. And it's like, it's so crazy because it's not even stuff that you need to be thinking about. It really just happens. Because when you start creating inner alignment within you, it explodes out of you in all directions. Like I barely ever drink alcohol anymore. You know, Ilan doesn't drink much. I don't think either, from what I could say, from what I could tell. And like, it's not to say that I never drink it, but it's just like I don't sit around on a Wednesday like just fucking waiting for Friday to roll around so I can have a drink, or waiting for the day to be over so that I can have a beer. I don't do that. Occasionally I'll have like some wine, this, that, the other. I can't even tell you the last time I was really drunk or had 2 drinks in a row. It's been a long time, long time. And so like, and the reason was not a conscious one. Like I didn't have to sit up one day and be like, I should really stop drinking. It's not good for my health. It just happened. And it happened because there was inner alignment and the energy no longer agreed that alcohol was good for me. It would take me out of an awareness that I was no longer willing to do that for. And it just kind of like phased out. And one day I was like, oh shit, I haven't had a drink in like 6 months, you know? And everything to me these days has that effect. It's like, I just wake up into it one day and realize that I either started or stopped doing something that was really beneficial and well for me. And oftentimes it didn't really come with much of a thought. It was just like, oh, that just aligns to this energy. And so full circle here is like, yeah, there are all these other aspects of life that really, really matter to our humanity and to our spirituality and to our souls and our energy. But like the foundation of what we all are is awareness and energy. That's the foundation. You literally cannot disprove that today. We are particles and waves moving at alternating frequencies. It's indisputable as of this time. in terms of physics and quantum physics, right? Like everything is that. So it's like, if you begin to focus on those aspects of yourself, your life is going to change. But set yourself up to win and recognize this is incremental. And it's for that reason that whether you decide to work with us or not, do something long-term. Do something for a year. Do something for 2 years. Like, Veronique, Andrea, again, just to use them, the reason they've made such big headway is they've been doing this nonstop now for sometimes 2 or 3 years, and like, they'll tell you, it's like the vastness of difference between a year 1 work and year 2 work, huge. It's just like watching a child. The difference between a 1 and 2 year old is massive. Between a 2 and a 3 year old, massive. Between a 3 and a 4 year old, massive. Totally different. So it's like, you are choosing to go through a process of redevelopment, your own development again, in order to find out what was missed and put those things in so that you can create more balance in your system. And when that balance comes, it becomes much more clear what's creating the disbalance in your life and then how to correct that. And so nothing could be more fundamental or foundational than doing this type of work to get healing all over your life. Yeah. And that's the end of my soliloquy.
Yeah. We obviously talked to, so Andrea, Veronique, Alex, these are just some of our coaches. They've been doing this work day in, day out for ages. And every single one of us, them included, and they can tell you, like, life doesn't stop. Life doesn't stop coming at you. It will never stop coming at you. There's no teacher, there's no book, there's no practice, there's no magical thing that you're going to do. And all of a sudden, all of these things are just going to fall into place. Like, we are a constantly evolving being around a constantly evolving world with other constantly evolving beings. So it's like, you're not stationary long enough to figure out the rules of the game at that moment, because once you figured it out, guess what? The rules are already changing. Like Guy said, that world has moved 8 miles in that day, right? Like, all shit goes out the window. Being a parent is like one of the greatest examples of it, because it's like, you're never, like, you're in the groove for a short period of time, and then the kids evolve, and like the whole rules change. It's like what they're needing is different, and how they're communicating is different. And so you're always playing this game of working and figuring it out, and the reason I believe divorce rate, by the way, is so high is because people have this notion that because they said, I do, and I love you, and blah, 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 like, it's all supposed to be hunky-dory. I don't know about you. Like, relationship is work. It's a constant trial and error, trial and error, trial and error. And there are moments where there's more connection and more intimacy, and then less connection and less intimacy. And it's like, if you're not aware and you're not playing the game, then when it starts to drift and you don't have that ability to notice it and bring it back, just like in anything else in life, like, it's really hard once something has like gone all the way this way. Even in health, think about this, like someone who's 5 pounds overweight, but all of a sudden like puts on a pair of pants or like something and is like, I don't quite like the way I do. And then they start taking action right then and there, is very different than someone who's 150 pounds and then trying to make that turn, right? Like, you do something and you catch it early, the shifts can become quick. Anything where you just are resigned to this is the way it is, and then you have that epiphany, it is just a lot harder. And so to me, like, the skill set that Guy and I have invested the last 8 years into learning has really shifted our day-to-day life. Because before, what I was seeking was the next concept, the next, like, program, the next understanding. And I had like little dopamine hits of like, oh my God, I figured out myself or life or whatever it is. Now I'm like, I'm very clear that didn't really move the needle. And I'm also very clear that it takes constant, specific practices in order to create a wealth of awareness within your mind and body. And just like anything else, it's like it becomes more subtle and more subtle and more subtle. And things that Guy and I are even telling you today that we're like, hey, this is where we're at. Trust me, you're going to come back here in a year. And because this awareness is ever expanding like everything else, what we're going to share with you is going to be completely different. And those that have been around us for ages, like maybe you're even someone that's new and you watch MMI. Notice if you can tell, MMI was what, 7 years ago, let's say?
End of 2016, yeah.
Right? So like, see if you can even notice the difference between Guy and I from that time, like those recordings to where we speak from today. World of difference.
Mm-hmm.
I look back and I'm like, wow. And trust me, at that time, Guy and I were like, wow, we fucking figured out personal development. Yeah. And we did on this one growing up path. And then we found this waking up path and we're like, wow, we're newbies. We know nothing. And so now we're 8 years down that path. Talk to me in another 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, I love that we evolve. And I know, like, just back to parenting, so many people, every time they watch these videos of their kids and they're like, oh, I just wish we can go back to when they were 3 or 4 or 5. They were so cute, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, that came with a lot of other stressors that you just don't remember because looking back, it's like easy to just see the cuteness. Yesterday, just so you guys know, I sat down. My wife is on a work trip and we usually have family meetings on Monday. And I was like, hey, listen, mom is not here. So obviously we can't do a family meeting, but would you guys be open to if I asked you a few questions and you guys just answer as honestly as you can? And basically I went and just asked my 12 and almost 11-year-old daughter, she's turning 11 in 9 days, questions like, when do you feel supported by me and when do you not feel supported by me? Are there things that I do consistently that make you feel unloved or bad? What else did I ask them? You know, what are the things that you think that I'm doing great as a father? And what are the things that I'm not doing great as a father? What are things that maybe you've wanted to say to me, but you've been afraid to say to me? We had like an hour-long, unbelievable conversation yesterday. Like, can't do that with a 3-year-old. You know what I mean? Like, can't do that with a 5-year-old. It was just, I sat there and I was like, holy crap, this is like incredible. And just watching how they were interacting with each other and like how we were having this whole I just sat there and I was like, this is so fucking cool. Evolution, right? Like I don't pretend to know shit about being a parent. Like to me, it is such a constant evolution, but I've grounded myself in the same place in my relationship with my wife and with my kids that I'm always, always, always willing to evolve, willing to admit where the things that I'm doing are not working and try something new. And I can't promise someone that you're going to tell me this thing and like it's going to snap into place and I'm going to be this new version of myself. Because I've done this long enough. That's an impossibility. Like I'm going to default and I'm going to fall down. And I want you to know that my intention is to actually improve in this area. And so like they brought up a couple of things and even as they were sharing, they were like, and like, this is how you started and you actually like really improved over, you know, the X amount of months in this particular area. So it made me feel great, but it's like, if you're not locked into any way that you be in life, anyway, it doesn't matter in what, like in your relationship to yourself, in your relationship to money, in your relationship to health, in your relationship to your family, in your relationship to your career, if you're rigid about it, you're done. You're done. Fluidity. It's like, okay, and now this, and now this. Like, Guy and I run a business, guys. For any of you that run a business, you know, it's like, it's an ever evolving, like everything else. It's got its own life. We're here to almost like be on this ride with it and guide it in whatever way we can. It's like, and you got to be able to dance. And if you can't do that in your life in any specific area, then come learn these practices. Yeah. Because it will give you the fluidity. It will give you the ability to dance with your circumstances, dance with the overwhelming sensations that you might be feeling in a way that will give you peace. Like, imagine going through something really, really intense and having stability and resiliency where you're like, wow, I've never gone through anything like that with this much presence and this much allowing of the unfolding. To me, you cannot put a price tag on this ability that one can cultivate.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, it's everything, you know. I think now I've been through enough cycles that I realize everything is a minimum. If you're really committed to something, minimum 7-year journey, minimum. And the thing is, 7 years comes really fast. You know, like I just turned 40 this year. I'm like, ooh, this is not that long of a ride. You know, yeah. this human experience is really not that long of a ride. In your 20s, it feels much longer. Your 30s, you feel like you got quite a bit of time. And again, like my goal is to live till 120. So for all I know, I've only done the third. What can I do with another 80 years? Kind of blows my mind given how much has already happened. But like it really does go by much faster. And of course, having children, every parent knows this, makes the whole thing start going by at another speed. So, you know, what are you going to do with that time? You know, a lot of us are wasting it on social media and, you know, trying to move away from boredom, and where like really actually sitting with your boredom would be highly beneficial to find out how to move out of the procrastination states or fear responses that many of us find ourselves into. And until you dance and tumble with those edges in a really safe way that helps you explore them, they're going to decide a lot about your life that you really don't want it to decide. And those are the things that you do sit on your deathbed or in that rocking chair when you're much older and you go, fuck, I wasted a lot of time doing things that were unequivocally unimportant for me. And like, that's the choice that we make. And again, I want to tell you, change is incremental. There are quantum experiences, don't get me wrong, like where it's like, it's this, and like something like everything seems to change overnight. But like, there are plenty of people in business who got really wealthy really fast. Ask them if it was an overnight success. You know, ask them. It's always 10 years to an overnight success, 7 years to an overnight success. Like nobody just bangs it out on the first try. You know, if it happens occasionally, but like Ilan, and I'll finish with this. And then, just the invite for you guys who are interested in looking at working long-term, like come back to the spiritual school. Come work with us. Like we've been doing this for 20 years. Like imagine working with any professor that's been doing the same thing for 20 years and is constantly growing in that field and has some beautiful things to share with you. This work works, for more than 95% of people who do this work completely reorganizes and transforms their life. I was going to say something over there, but I already forgot my thought. So I'll leave it at that. Ilan opens up 5 spots a week to have conversations with you guys. You can get on his calendar by clicking that link, soulsandseekers.com/Ilan. That puts you into his calendar. We require $111 because we don't want to waste his time or our time with people that don't show up for calls. And if you do decide to then move forward with any of our programs, we will just roll that 111 over into the enrollment fee, whatever the level may be. So, okay. And it's your opportunity to have a one-on-one conversation with Ilan get some coaching and then also explore, what do these programs look like? What can I expect? How does that look? And we have just incredible people in this community. And it's the one thing we don't really talk about nearly enough. Like the value here is not just the teachings, it's in plugging yourself into a global community of people who are up to what you're up to. Ilan and I have not been able to advance 1 inch in our lives without a super committed team of people around us who are also been doing same or similar work, who some are way further down the path than us. And that is really how we make headway in life, is we plug ourselves into communities that support each other. Reminder, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes that same village to support an adult. It certainly takes that same village to transform an adult's life. And like the community structure for a human being is not a recommendation. It's a necessity. It's a necessity. And so like, that's what you're plugging into when you come into any of these programs, is you're plugging into this community of people who are already established and doing this work, that are happy to support you in the practices that we teach. And like, that's why you're going to make headway. It's not because you're special or a genius or you'll get it or you won't get it. Everyone gets it as long as they keep practicing it. Okay. We love you very much. Thank you for being here. We'll catch you next week. Otherwise, enjoy the recording. Take care.
Thank you, dear one, for choosing to share a bit of your day with us. We value you greatly. And as a way to give back and help you to deepen these practices, we want to invite you to join our incredible community on Facebook. You can do so easily by going to joinoldsouls.com and ask for an invite. This is our private community where old souls and seekers are able to grow and share their journey with others. We hold exclusive weekly live streams, we answer your personal questions, and offer valuable insights that we won't be able to share here on the podcast. So again, just head to joinoldsouls.com and grab your invite today. And as always, if you enjoy this podcast, please head to iTunes and leave us a review. It's the only way other people can find this show. So if it's making a difference in your life, please share the love. Until we meet again, have an amazing week, dear one.